Welcome to the Adam Fitch podcast. I'm your host, Adam Fitch. This podcast series is where I just speak to people from different corners of the eSports industry, try and get a little insight that you may not get otherwise. It's very hard to get it across in kind of written context. I know that from my experience at Esports Insider and such. So put this together. I think this is actually episode 15 or 16. I can't remember. I'm just kind of keeping it going. I don't know where I'm at, but it's going well and people are receiving it nicely, so we'll keep it going. So today I've got a special guest. I say that with every guest, but I mean it. They would not be on my podcast if I didn't think they were worth it. So it's Herbie May. I don't know if you prefer Herbie or Herb. I've seen it used both ways online.
You know what? For true friends, it's Herbie. So that's
so I'm Herb then, yeah.
No, it's actually funny. My dad is also Herb. So when I'm in the same state or I'm in the same area, I readopt the IE in my name because he's always Big Herb and I'm Herbie. So that's just kind of how it rolls for right now.
There we go. So I'm joined by Herbie May. So I haven't researched this bit, but I think I remember it. Director of Corporate Partnerships, I believe, is the job title at Houston Outlaws, which is now owned by Beasley Media Group. If I remember that correctly, then that's not bad considering it's a Sunday.
Correct. You nailed it. It's tough. I know it is. When you look at the business card here, like it gets pretty jacked up. I mean, it's a long title, but you nailed it.
Well, it's like my title's just editor, so like you're never gonna forget that, you know. But that there's so many titles popping up, especially in esports now, where we're like filling roles that maybe don't exist in other industries and stuff, where we just have to kind of allocate a title that fits. But I'm seeing like CXO recently coming into esports, so Chief Experience Officer and stuff, because obviously the cat of CEO. Yeah, it's Wild West of titles at the moment, mate. But so I tend to kind of try and get beyond the titles and understand how people class themselves. So myself, I class myself as a writer, and now I guess like a video content creator as well. So overall a content creator. How would you define what you are and what you do? Would you say you're just a partnerships guy? I know you do a lot more than that. So where do you fit into it in your eyes?
I just like to make friends. I just like to have fun.
That's where we differ. I do not like to make friends.
You're such a liar, dude. No, I mean, listen, partnerships is seen probably the most as sales, a number, reaching sponsorships, bringing revenue into your organization, which I know is of the utmost importance. But I think from a partnership standpoint, business development standpoint, like anything that you bring into your company has to advance your organization forward. So sometimes that isn't always with a dollar amount. It is, at this point in 2020, it's certainly important that, I don't want anybody running around thinking I'm not trying to bring in revenue for our company, but there are certain relationships and partnerships and alliances that you can bring in that if they are advancing your organization forward, then I see them as nothing but good. And sometimes that can be anything from, like just making a new relationship at the bank, like when you go like set up a checking account or something, or like when you go to a networking event, just making a new connection. I think I see it in a really, really broad sense. So yes, while revenue is always on my mind, sometimes there's just certain things where it's like, okay, this might not be a relationship for a dollar amount, but it's a relationship just to have in the back pocket that at some point might help me advance my organization forward. That's kind of the way I think about it.
Okay. So what I want to do is early on define partnership and perhaps differentiate it from like affiliate and sponsorship. So I see those as like three tiers of relationships between a company and another brand. So we see some people say they're partnered, like say with G Fuel for example, but really they have an affiliate code where they make a bit of dosh if their code is used. And then. What would you say the difference between a sponsorship and a partnership is? Is it simply a sponsorship, they'll give you free shit, and then a partnership is you're working together towards a common goal? Like, how do you see it? It's kind of a bit of a grey area in esports, especially.
It's totally gray. You're absolutely right. I think there's a difference actually between official partnership and partnership. Right. So, an official partnership is something that we announce, right? It's something that we, and it's exactly what you just stated. It's an infrastructure trade. It's what you see in a lot of esports. And I think that is a defined partnership with product exchange or social media exchange, things like that. I actually think there's a defined like XYZ, the official partnership at least. a partnership is, I could, almost argue that like I've got a partnership with you and Sam, right, at eSports Insider, just from like a friendship standpoint. This is obviously not, you might have to edit it out now.
No, of course not.
I define certain really strong relationships that I have when, like, if I have a question, or I have a thought, or I have something that I want to bounce off, like I'm confident enough to come to you, or I'm confident enough to come to some other relationships that I have in the esports industry, and be like, listen, I got a thought for you, and knowing that I'm going to get a direct answer back, or I'm going to get an honest answer back, is what I thrive on, right? So like Jeremy Poor is with the Atlanta Reign. I would consider our relationship to be more of a partnership, because when he needs something, he knows to text me immediately, or when I need something, I know to text him immediately. And sometimes that's something over a potential sponsor, or it's just a thought or an idea, or it's just a little information. I think that there's that's kind of the way I see partnerships. That might not be the popular answer, but that's kind of the way that I see the difference between like an official partnership that we'll talk to you about and like announce, or like I have a lot of unofficial partnerships that I hold near and dear to me.
Okay, so what would you class Outlaws' relationship with Respawn products then? Because we covered it on eSports Insider, I think last month, maybe late January or something, and to me, I've seen a lot of partnerships come and go now. I've written about, I think I've done like almost 1,500 articles in 2 years. So like I'm very much on the pulse of what's going on there. And what it appears is it's very much like any gaming chair partnership where they supply the products, you use them, and that's kind of it. So would you say that's a real partnership, if that is the term of it, or?
That's an official partnership for us, and it's actually like the perfect way to describe what I just said. Because that deal was set in place before I got to the Outlaws, right? So that actually not a real. I've just gotten to know the Respawn guys a little bit just via email chain, because it wasn't my deal. But like they are our official partner in both desks and chairs, and we stated that we did that with you, and we use their products, and they're really terrific partners of ours to do what they did for us. But like from a personal standpoint, I don't know them too well because it wasn't my deal and it was set up before I got here. But that being said, I mean, that'll all change the more and more I get to know them, and the more and more we work with them.
Mm-hmm. When I think of a standout partner for Outlaws, I think of T-Mobile. Right, so obviously there's been the chance during games, and then there's the content series and such. But I also don't think there are too many standout partnerships in esports in general. Obviously, you've got like ESL and Intel. They're going for like 20 years now, I think. And there's like Betway and Ninjas in Pajamas. That kind of stands out to me. But there's not too many. It seems a lot of the time these days, it's just like get someone on board, get some dosh or get some products, and then we kind of leave it there. And I'm not saying that's related to Outlaws, but just like organizations in general. So have you got any like partnerships that stand out to you that are either like gold standard in esports or just memorable ones that you could highlight? Because as I say, for me, there aren't too many.
I actually think we're right now entering into a really, really, really unique time. Obviously, this world we're living in is incredibly crazy right now. So I think that really valuable partnerships are about to start to shine.
Right.
I think there's certainly a level of guys that just like say, yeah, we're partnered with them. And, because they want to come talk to you and they want you to write an article about them. Right. And they want to be in the press for a second, and it gives you a story, which is, great for you. But then I think there's sometimes that like those partnerships won't even make it out of the pan. They'll just be that flash, and you'll get that little, you'll get 100 extra social media followers on your on your organization's account, and then you probably never see anything from it. I think that does happen sometimes, which is unfortunate. Is what it is. Guys, you got to do what you got to do. But for right now, like something I saw the other day, I think which we all saw, was the Phoenix Suns and Twitch, playing their next scheduled NBA game on Twitch, playing NBA 2K. That game had 11,000 viewers on it. when I think the concurrent or like the average fan base for the Phoenix Suns this year had been like 15,000, which is a brutal number. But still, nonetheless, I can't imagine that there was a ton of like there was a ton of money changing hands there. I think that was just like Twitch and the Phoenix Suns came together. We're like, we need some, Devin Booker like found out about the NBA, streaming with Nate Shot. Like, let's just see what we can do with this. Let's come together. Like, we'll put our logos together. And it was a massive success. So I think like right now, I'm sure there's a ton of other, but like one that's fresh in my mind is going to be that Phoenix Suns partnership with Twitch. It seems like it's going to take place for the rest of the season. Now, if I were to venture a guess, Adam Silver is a very, very, very smart commissioner, and everything he does seems to be right. I mean, that guy takes a swing of the bat and connects every time. And I'd be willing to venture a guess that outside of the NBA 2K League, which he's already doing a pretty good job with, at least, from the relationship standpoint, I would be willing to guess that we might see something in regards to the NBA season played out on NBA 2K on Twitch. So I'd be shocked if I didn't see a Twitch and NBA partnership out, obviously larger than what's already in place with the NBA 2K League from like a season standpoint. I think that'd be really interesting. And people are just dying for something to watch right now.
Oh, without a doubt. I found myself gaming for once, and I never bloody game. So, if I've got time to sit down and play a game with a friend, then there's something wrong. Like, it never happens. Things are just slowing down. It's wild. One kind of partnership I do want to touch on a bit though, like so the Cod League, for example, just partnered with the US Army. It's already partnered with the Air Force, and we're seeing those two in particular, and the Marines as well, like getting more involved in esports. What do you think on that? Because it's a very divisive topic. You see some people really rooting for it. I mean, for me, it makes sense as to why they would try and get this demographic.
Totally. It's funny. I have a couple key things about why I wanted to get into esports outside of it just being a really buzzy word and being really exciting and me believing in gaming. And one of my three main reasons was I think it's going to redefine how we recruit for our military and recruit for our armed forces. So when I see those partnerships come together, I am full through and through on board 100%. I think it's huge for our military because I think at some point we're going to be advanced enough where we don't even have to use bodies and we don't have to risk lives to go and infiltrate enemy forces. So I think any way that we can innovate how we're recruiting is going to be important to just our safety here in the U.S. So when I see partnerships like that come together, I mean, Call of Duty makes the most sense in the world. And Joanna Ferry coming from the NFL, you know that she's worked with the armed forces before. So I'm sure it made all the sense in the world and will be a really proactive partnerships. Tough to see the homestands get canceled in the first season, but it is what it is. Safety is safety. But from what I saw from the Call of Duty launch weekend in Minnesota, I mean, they're really, the Marines, I think it was Marines that weekend. The Marines were really, really integrated into what they were doing. So that's a partnership I do and I do believe in, and I'm on the side for.
Okay, so I want to talk about you for a bit.
Oh boy,
just a little bit, because I actually don't know this myself.
You're gonna start boring people, dude. You're gonna start boring people.
Well, I hope not. I hope not. We'll see. No, but it's just one thing I think is interesting to everyone is how people not necessarily discover esports, but at what point did they pull the trigger on trying to make it happen? Because I mean, I get messages. I would say every other day at this point. Just specifically from writers saying, how do I get into esports, and I don't know how the hell you did actually.
It's a great question because there's a lot of people out there who certainly resisted my entry into the space.
Okay.
Because I'm definitely not native to it and I never pretend to be. because for the longest time and still currently, I mean, my life passion is the NFL and football. And because I'm a massive Baltimore Ravens fan, always have been. My first internship was with the Baltimore Ravens, and I love football more than anything else, probably in the world. I would say that my goals with football changed over time. So I worked in football throughout college. And then right when I graduated from college, I went to the NFL, and I sold in football, and I sold within the NFL. And that's where things kind of just got, I don't want to say ugly because that's the wrong word, but it was just boring. I missed being a fan. I missed drinking beers and watching games with my dad, which is what I was kind of raised on. And when you work for the league, it's different than being a fan. So I kind of had to decipher what relationship I wanted with football in my life. And I wanted to go back to being a fan. I sold Super Bowl tickets in corporate hospitality, which meant that it was better for business for the Dallas Cowboys to win football games than my Baltimore Ravens, which was conflicting for me internally. So it was really, but I was introduced to I always played video games, right? I went to an all guys boarding school. And then I also, went to the University of Mississippi, and it's all we did. I never thought about it as like playing professionally. And I was really generally pretty terrible. I always played Call of Duty and Gears of War and Madden. Like those are my three games. But never thought about it as a career. It wasn't really until I graduated the University of Mississippi. I was already going to work for the NFL. A mentor of mine was who sat down with me once I moved to New York. A mentor of mine sat down, and he was an early investor in NVIDIA.
Okay.
So he's worth a lot of money. And he sat across the table from me. Must be 56 years old and knows nothing about video games or anything at all, and looks at me and goes, "You need to understand esports." And that was must be 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
He goes, "You need to understand what's happening here, because I just invested in NVIDIA. I am dominating, and it's all based around this esports thing. And I know nothing about it, but you are, at the time I was 22, 23. No, 24. Jesus. And yeah. And he was like, this is something you need to understand. So I kind of shrugged him off. I was like, "You're crazy. But then again, you're worth a lot of money, so I'm going to listen to you." It was kind of right after. I tell people there's a couple different moments, but and your viewers may or may not know this moment. Are you a football fan yourself, actually?
Football as in American football?
American football, yes.
Not at all. Never watched a game. Never watched a minute.
That's that's fair. There was a moment and some of your viewers may know this, because I know that you're a super popular guy and you've got global viewership.
Fucking bullshit.
There was a moment in the NFC Championship game. It was 2 years ago when the Saints and the Rams were playing to go to the Super Bowl. And there was a controversial pass interference call, which eventually changed the rule that now this year you can review pass interference calls. But it was a moment where the rule happened, like the moment happened, I'm sitting there and I needed the Saints to win the Super Bowl, and they didn't. And I had this internal feeling. I was like, okay, it's time for me to go, because nothing about the game of American football is going to change. Football is football. Nothing's going to innovate. It's a sport, and it's going to be the sport it is forever. And it's always going to be the sport that I love, but I can't sit here and sell this for the rest of my life. I need to go get into something that is going to be forever changing, forever innovative, forever new, bringing different worlds together. And at that point, I made it my mission to go talk to Joanna Ferries. And I followed up with her. This is where my LinkedIn stuff gets weird. But I followed up with her basically until she answered. And she was nice enough to hop on the phone call with me. And I say this on every podcast I ever do, but the quote that I remember most of that conversation is when I asked her why she left the NFL to go run the Call of Duty League. She said, "I wanted to go do something that allowed me to make an immediate impact while also continue to learn at an incredibly high clip."
Okay.
That is the I should get it tattooed one day. But
bit long though, isn't it?
It's a long one. It is long. But when you dive deep into it, that's someone who, like, she went to Harvard Business School. She'd been with the NFL forever. She was in a really good seat. And then, like, bam, she wanted to go do something that allowed her to continue to learn, be exposed to new things, go out of her comfort zone. I was like, I'm sold. I want to do what you've done here. And those were kind of the two intertwined moments where I was like, this is why, and this is, you know, I'm going to pursue esports.
And how do you end up at Roundhill from there?
First I was with Access Replay.
Okay. Right.
With that gaming facility in Atlanta, Georgia. I spent about 4 or 5 months there running their business development. And actually, Roundhill is one of my is a lot of the story that I use for young guys, just I'm sure who are reaching out to you, who want to get into the space. That was our friendship and a relationship. Will Hershey and Tim Maloney, both Vanderbilt guys, and I went to the University of Mississippi, so we were both in the SEC, and they were doing something really, really unique. My dad's in financial services. I knew a little bit about ETFs, but not much. But I wanted to figure out a place to invest in esports, and they had a product to do that. And I had reached out to Will. Boy, it must have been April of last year. April of last year, and I didn't start working for them until September. And we were just friends. I mean, he's just a good dude, you know? So we talked about things and talked about industry notes, things that I knew, things that he knew. He's much, much smarter than me. And so is Tim in regards to all things financial services. But I certainly had some relationships in esports, which they found to be interesting. And it kind of came together naturally. It was at the Fortnite World Cup. We went up there together, and I sat with Will, and after a couple of beers, it was kind of like, you know, do you think you could do this for us? And I was like, I'm certainly open to trying. I think you guys need someone smarter. And it came together great. And I know I'm not with them anymore, but I freaking love those guys. Those guys are the absolute best, and they're going to continue to do cool things. It was that was a fun stint in my career working for Roundhill. I love those guys.
And so your NFL experience helped you move on to Outlaws in terms of the sales and partnership side of things?
I'd say there's nothing that gets you ready for esports more than any basic sales job, right? When guys reach out to me and they're like, what do I need to do to get into esports? I was like, if you haven't been can you swear on here? Do you swear?
Of course, all the fucking time. There you go.
If you haven't been in some shitty sales job where you're like pounding the phone for 80 to 100 times a day, I don't think you're ready for just your general career. Because when I say it a lot, if you haven't had your teeth properly kicked in by somebody on the other end of the phone, you kind of don't know what's coming when you start to sell, especially large partnerships like you see in esports.
Right.
But whether it was the NFL or not, I was pounding the phone 80 times a day, selling a really expensive product to really, really mean people who had no time for me. And now that I've gotten to the Outlaws, like anyone could say anything to me and I'd be pretty immune to it. But what I've learned is that everyone in this space is generally pretty nice and pretty understanding and knows exactly why I'm reaching out. So at this point, everyone kind of generally is asking for the same thing a little bit. Like there's no secret as to why I'm reaching out to a brand like PepsiCo to like start trying to get some of their snack brands, and they know exactly. So it's really a testament to like how good of a relationship builder you are, because whether you're the Outlaws to the Fuel to the Uprising to the Spitfire, we're all looking for sponsorship dollars. So it's really a race of relationship building, because all the sales pitches are probably, I would assume, somewhat similar. So knowing that I'm really confident in cold calling, hopping on the phone, taking the person that I'm selling to out of their comfort zone, I didn't realize I was learning at the NFL until I started, at Access Replay, and then a little bit at Roundhill, and now definitely at the Outlaws.
Yeah. So I'd say like both of Activision Blizzard's properties, their COD League and Overwatch League, they're quite unique in the capabilities of of bringing in the partners and stuff, because it blends both the global audience in with like hyper localized audiences if you choose to do that. So are you concentrating on both of those things when you're looking at cultivating new partnerships and sponsorships and stuff, or is there one that you're dialing in on more? Obviously, the coronavirus is kind of fucking it up a bit now. I've actually just got an email from Roundhill right this second. They're listening to us. Yeah, well, the coronavirus is fucking things up, so things will be played online or behind closed doors. But when it gets back to like the local markets and going to a new location every week, I guess there's opportunities there. I think Outlaws has already got like a Texas local partnership. Is it HEB? I'm not Texan, so I don't know for sure.
You're knowing your stuff. I love to see it.
Yeah, I can remember the name of the company, but I can't remember what the hell the partnership's about. So, there's a certain level of it. Like, basically what I'm asking is, like, will there be like a hybrid of both approaches, both looking at a global scale and a hyper-localized scale, or is the one that you're favoring over the other?
I joined the Outlaws because I believe it can be so much larger than just Houston. So my initial... Because we have three key markets really that we focus on, being Houston, Austin, and San Antonio. And that's, I don't know how much you know about Texas, bro, but this state is a beast. It is basically a country in itself. And there's a lot of area to cover. I certainly think that there is a global opportunity here and more of a national, I think local, national, and global, really. So, focus on Houston, and we're going to, go outside to more of our key markets. Then we're going to go outside of Texas because, keep in mind, Beasley Media Group, I mean, they're a public company with national reach and with radio stations in 60 key markets across the country. So we have this kind of reach built into us, which we're looking to tap into. For right now, my goal is to make sure that every mainstay and every big name here in the city of Houston knows that eSports is in town, and it's in town in a big way. There's a franchise team here. We want to be in the same conversation as the Rockets and as the Texans and as the Dynamo and the Dash. We want to be recognized as that we are a professional organization. We may not have, we haven't been here very long, right? I mean, this is the first season where everyone's in their home market. But my goal is to create as much awareness in the city of Houston as possible. And whether you know it or not, Houston and Dallas compete pretty heavily. And Dallas has got an amazing position in the esports industry. They got a lot of names down there, which I totally respect. They've done a great job. But it's really a unique time for Houston to start with a franchise slot, because it's it's a weird time because of this virus, but it's a good from the grand scheme of things, for Houston to start with a franchise slot, because it's a brand to hop onto. It's something to be a part of. It's something to grasp onto. And I don't know what you know about Overwatch fans, but the Houston fans, after I saw them live, I mean, I didn't believe it until I saw it live. But man, those guys come out in spades and are crazy. So, my goal, this went much farther than your question. But my goal right now, in probably the first couple of months here, is to really hammer in on the Houston market.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned Overwatch fans, and I mean, I'm certainly not going to try and drop you in it with them. Obviously, you work for Outlaws, but I mean, yeah, I see the online Outlaws fans. No, not Outlaws. Oh, fucking hell, I'm really messing up here. I see the online Overwatch fans, I'm sorry. Like, maybe not esports fans as much as just fans of the actual game itself. And they are easily the most off their head game fan bases of all time. They, like, you never know who they are because they've always got anime profile pictures. They're literally talking about anything but what's actually relevant. I'm not going to get into it too much, but they do my head in, like, casual Overwatch fans. I'm glad to hear that that the competitive side of things is very supportive and such. I'd have no real doubt on that. But I remember the Outlaws had a really passionate fan base from the get-go, basically, in Season 1. Obviously having, like, a really American roster and such, and having Jake and people like Muma, who people love. I mean, I could tell they had one of the more passionate fan bases. I think what happened with Infinite and being stuck in limbo and such kind of dampened that a little bit, and now is kind of a transitional period still, it looks like, with some bits changing behind the scenes. But I have no doubt that with the right people in place, like it can be one of the standout teams in the league, at least from a fan base and a content standpoint.
We really believe that too, and which is what we're so excited about. And obviously, we had a rugged start, starting at 5, but it's very apparent how built we are for player pools, and that's a testament to our coaches Harsha and Dream and Hureg, who have done a really good job of just assembling what is a really, really good roster, a deep roster that can that can play a lot of positions. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm an Overwatch expert, because I'm not, but I've certainly gotten better. And to see just the way we played Paris right before we kind of entered into what's going to be like a 4-week break for the Outlaws, personally, for the Outlaws specifically, I guess. I'm very excited about the position that we've put ourselves in. And then, from a content standpoint, Lori Burgess, who is the COO of Beasley Esports, is a driven woman, and she is one of the main reasons that I came to work for the Houston Outlaws, because of just the way that her brain works, her career, plus the relationship that she has with Beasley Media Group, and their commitment to esports. There's a lot of really, really, really exciting things that can happen for us over the next couple of over months, seasons. So, there's a very, very, this wasn't like, oh, the Outlaws called and I'm going to go suddenly move to Houston because it looks fun. This was a strategic move based on the team that they had assembled and their plans for the future.
Okay, right. I want to talk about another side of Herbie May, the LinkedIn side.
Oh, God.
The content side, because I mentioned this a little bit before, but I think we have two different standpoints on LinkedIn, which is fine. I like. Well, the fact is, I don't have everything in common with anybody. Like everyone's got different stances on things, and that's what makes it interesting. So I think this could be a decent conversation, right? So, well, by the way, with coronavirus going on right now, are you homebound or are you still going to work in an office? Or
is that because I coughed? You
No. I'm just asking because I assume more content will come if you're stuck at home and don't have to travel and such.
We actually have a pretty small office here in the Woodlands, and we're outside of Houston a little bit. So we're actually I might pop into the office every now and then. Actually, I don't know if I'm allowed to now that I say that.
That's what I'm thinking.
But yes, for the next couple of weeks, everyone's working from home, and we all pretty remote anyway.
Okay, and the way I was introduced to you was through LinkedIn. I kept seeing, it was really fucking annoying, I kept seeing you doing LinkedIn lives and shit, and I'm just like, and it's before we connected and stuff, I'm like, fuck's sake, and eventually I just have to check it. There's another guy, I think there's an Australian guy who does it as well, I can't remember his name, I'm not connected with him at all, but I'd go on LinkedIn because I have to, basically, just to see what the hell's going on sometimes. And yeah, I just see you just speaking to someone. This is before I had my own podcast and before I really got around to deciding to do it myself. And so that's when I had to look to see what you were doing. I became aware of Roundhill.
You're saying all of what you're doing is inspired by me? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I'm just saying this is before it. Actually, maybe it put me off for a while. You never know. You never know, but no, the fact is, right, I saw you a lot to the point where I was like, okay, I have to see what this guy's about, which is good brand awareness if you're building yourself as a brand and you're building your personal brand, right? But yeah. I'm still very much on the fence when it comes to LinkedIn, specifically with esports. I'm sure it's the same with other industries, and I'll explain a little bit just to give a bit of context surrounding it. I think there are a ton of snake oil salesmen out there. I think there are a bunch of bullshitters. I see it a lot, actually, and there was a time where I would comment on everyone and just laugh at them or something, but I'm at the point now where I just try and ignore things that piss me off, which is me being in a state of zen 24/7 basically, or else I'm just a rage ball. But yeah, there's a lot of people chatting shit, and they call themselves consultants and advisors, and they get people in who are definitely not looped in when it comes to esports, right? And they tell them it's an amazing thing, everyone's making money, which is obviously bullshit. Basically, no one's making money right now. And then they say, oh, you should invest in this, or you should partner with so-and-so and sponsor this team. And then they get a commission on it because they've consulted with them or whatever it may be and advise them on it, or they actually maybe get on board a bit and help out. and they make some dosh and they just fuck off. And this has all come from them spouting shit on social media. It's just that will not happen on Twitter. No one is doing that on Twitter, and if so, it's not going to get that far. It's something unique to LinkedIn, and I guess it's something to do with like how juvenile esports is and how infant it is in its growth and inception and stuff. So yeah, I'm when it comes to LinkedIn, I'm getting there with it in terms of thinking there's value, but I don't see it. But you obviously do, so I kind of want to see your stance on it.
And if you can believe it, we actually have the same mindset, right? Okay. I agree with you. I am to the point where I'm like you, and I look past the people that I see who I think are being disingenuous, and I think there's a lot of people out there like that. So LinkedIn, I actually talked about this the other day. LinkedIn was my opportunity to break into esports when everyone was telling me no. Just so you know, I have a list. I have a long list of all the places that I applied to, right, and all the people that didn't even give me an opportunity. Some of them are in the Overwatch League. So like I've got a long list of like, and it's not, I'm not like sitting down, I want to kill them. Like, you know, it's like,
it's the hit list.
I want to be competitively. I want to beat them professionally. You know, I've got that list. I remember all the no's that I got, but I use LinkedIn to show my interest in the industry, and to show also that I was bringing some value. It was different. It certainly wasn't from the industry, but it was from an industry that is not necessarily a competitor, but that's been around for a long time, being the NFL. And my only option, since I continuously was getting no's, was to start showing my knowledge and showing myself and showing my face, because I think that was the only way to break through a lot of these barriers. Now, that being said, I knew for a fact, and it's a lot of how I was raised by my dad. You know, I've always been raised to never act like the smartest person in the room. One of my life mottos is literally, you don't know shit about shit, right? Because it's one thing that my dad always told me when I was interning. You know, always act like the dumbest person in the room, learn from somebody at the other side of the table. And that's how I treat the esports industry. I will never, ever, ever be the smartest person in this industry, no matter how long I've been in it, because there's been so many amazing people that have built this thing for years. I shouldn't even say years, decades, right? And I will never, ever act like I know more than those people, which puts me in a great position to always respect who's sitting across the table from me. And there is plenty of people on LinkedIn who like when you see blockchain, cannabis, crypto.
I'm already angry. I'm ready to punch my laptop.
I'm really sorry that
my trigger words, yeah.
But I know who you're talking about, you know, and there's certainly plenty of those people that have reached out to me. I have to be more strategic with my LinkedIn now because it gets blown up all the time. There are certain people that I always will take a phone call from, right? Like if you use anything Baltimore Ravens related to get past the first message, I'll probably respond. If you went to the University of Mississippi, if you're a college kid, I'm always going to respond to you. And then if I see, you know, a business development opportunity that's going to help advance the Outlaws forward, I'm going to take phone calls. But like the general networking calls, I can't, you know, I'll try and respond via message. But you're right. LinkedIn, there's no fact checking, which is one thing I think they're working on, right? I mean, so when you put number one, I mean, there's probably 500 number one esports consultants out there, and unless you're Slasher, right? Like I don't think you are that person. I actually believe.
Then I'm not. Anyway, no.
I know you're probably indifferent there. I think he's a generally pretty smart guy.
Yeah, I've spoken to him. I met him. He's a nice guy.
He can be a little vicious, but I actually that's a source of knowledge that I trust, right? I think he's a smart guy. He can be a little aggressive, but like when somebody comes to me and they, you know, have a background in enterprise rent-a-car, and, you know, not saying that's a bad role, but like then you have number one esports consultant on your profile. I'm like, what are we doing here? So I agree with you. There, LinkedIn has become certainly a little touch and go, especially for this industry. I think at the end of the day, esports needs to be recognized as a word on the platform. At some point, it's not registered anywhere besides the hashtag. But it can get frustrating. I can feel your frustration. I'm not as angry as you, so I
The thing, I've mellowed as well in like the past 3 months. I've mellowed out so much. I would sit at my desk every day, just look at shit and just sigh and just like fists like curled up, ready to just smash anything in sight. Just looking at these people, I'm just like the most annoying part is it actually works on people, and obviously there's due diligence and they can do some research themselves and not believe everything that some guy's saying that they've just met on LinkedIn. I mean that's like hoping too much or expecting too much of people. Really, that's what I've learned.
You had a good. What was your tweet the other day? It was really good about guys.
It could be any of them. Could be any of them, mate. They're all that good.
They're all pretty terrible, but
Yeah,
this
true.
one was actually pretty good. I forget what it was, but you were talking about. Excuse me. You were talking about marketing dollars or people that have fallen into the agency trap or the LinkedIn trap.
Yeah.
How you felt bad for those people, and quite honestly, one thing that I'm noticing is that like there's some coveted reason to become an advisor right now for like 20 different companies.
Yeah.
Getting equity, and I get it, but I just so everyone knows, like I had the same opportunity to become an advisor for like 20 something companies, and I'm like, listen, I'm not going to take your equity. I'm happy to be a friend in the industry here, but I'm not going to be under some written contract to like come work for you. And then something like this happens, right? Like we're in this virus, we have this virus going on, and there's this free fall in the market, and you've got to protect, your own personal job. You've got to protect, now like the 20, like the 20 companies you're advising, from economic downturn, which by the way, like, I don't care who's in the White House. Like, no one could have ever seen this coming ever. No one's ever seen this in their lifetime. So, then you've got like 22 to 28-year-old kids knocking on your door every 10 minutes asking like, what do I do? Like, I can't sell any sponsorships. I can't sell, I can't, bring in any investor money. Like the market's crashing. There's this virus. Like, can you imagine like the kids that have started these companies, and then if you're an advisor that you've like on LinkedIn, and like you now have all these guys asking for answers. I couldn't imagine. So I've been generally pretty strategic. There's one or two companies that I've almost gotten into the end zone with about becoming an actual advisor. But if I were to ever become an advisor of anyone, I would want it to be one or two people, because I'd want to sink my teeth in. I'd want to use my relationships. I want to be a part of it. I want to be, active, but like going and becoming the number one esports consultant and advisor for 20 different companies is just ridiculous. I mean, you need an actual company or an advisory firm for that. You can't just be like one dude on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Do it type of stuff.
Just rattling off WhatsApp messages all day, backwards and forwards, saying the same shit to all of them. It's a wild one. Well, one thing that? Oh, sorry, go for it. My bad.
No, I'm just saying, like, I'm just thinking right now of like all the people that like came to me at Roundhill asking for investment, not researching that we don't invest privately. It's not what we do. If you don't do the homework to like ask me that question,
Yep.
like, I'm sure now you're doing your homework on the fact that like no one's going to be spending for a while, especially when it comes to venture capital dollars, and some of these like phony venture capital firms are just going to like plummet. So it's like it'll be interesting time. Some things are going to get wiped out here.
That reminds me of a tweet I put out the other day, basically saying like know who you're applying to before you do it, and that was somewhat related to the job discussion that's been going around recently, especially on Twitter, about volunteering or not and everything like that. But so I get messages, being the editor of eSports Insider, saying like, hey, I want to pitch this to our website. And one, we don't take pitches like that. If you have a look, we don't have like people dropping in and out all the time just with one-off features. We bring people in, give them a quota, and we build them up that way, and then they'll move on to a full-time role somewhere else. That typically is how it goes. But and we're obviously strictly business to business. But I get people like, I want to write about the LEC. and who should win it, and G2 nearly completing the Grand Slam last year in League of Legends, and I'm just like, if you can't even just go on the website and take a look at the content that we do, then it's never gonna fucking happen. And I mean, like I think educating yourself is the first step towards getting any sort of opportunity anywhere, but especially in esports. But one thing I want to touch on quickly, we're getting, I guess, quite close to the end mark for the episode now, but I want to ask you, so you applied for a bunch of jobs and got turned away. You said that already. What's your stance on the volunteer thing? Like, because you just kept going. Some people, I'm not saying you at all, I don't think it's true, but some people, during this discussion that was going on, I guess last week, seemed like they felt they were entitled to get a job in esports just because they really love esports and gaming. It was like, oh, well, I deserve to get paid because I can do this. It's like, yeah, but esports isn't in the place where everyone can get hired. It's not a huge industry, so it's those who go out of the way and network like mad and don't fucking give up and try and provide value to everyone who's gonna be more than likely get the role that you're vying for, where you're just sitting there going on Hitmarker and applying and thinking you deserve it. Like, what's your take on the volunteer thing, and I guess just pushing through?
I certainly had to get knocked back a couple pegs, which I was fine with, right? I mean, that's just kind of the way of the world. What I will tell you, did you see Adam Apicella's tweet the other day about rework? Mm-hmm. I'm going to start sending that to people, right? I mean, Apicella is just a really smart dude. You know, we work with eSports Engine in this industry from the start. And if there's anyone you want to listen to, it's probably him. Yeah. But I did free work, right? I went and I worked for 404 Esports, which is a tiny little esports venue, which now focuses on the FGC community. And I did it for like a month. And not because he couldn't pay me, because I had been laid off from the NFL. So I had a severance. So I just like, you know what, I'm going to use this time, instead of like sitting here applying to jobs, I'm going to go out and do something. So I literally went and I knocked on Greg's door pretty much. And I was like, I don't care what you got. Let me help you with it. And I'll do it for free. And I won't take anything from you. And he gave me the opportunity to come in, and we built an event together, which I think helped him just kind of meet people, but it just kind of allowed me to be around the esports community in Georgia, and not just to be like on LinkedIn meeting people. Allowed me to be in person and to show that I cared. So I think volunteer work is vital. It is crucial. I think there's certainly all the roles that had turned me away said we're looking for somebody with esports experience. And I was like, man, how many people actually have that experience in this world right now? You know, there has to be that I'm providing that has to be somewhat valuable. But if you need me to go get experience, I'll go get it, right? I'm not shy to like work for free and like do crap work. I think one of the unique parts about me is that I don't actually see myself as a very smart person.
I've noticed that bit.
I didn't do well in school. I never liked school. It was never like I'm textbook for street smarts. I've been a good relationship builder, and I learned things that are interesting to me. So it was easy to kind of get kicked in the teeth a little bit after acting. I'm probably a little bit arrogant, right? I was like, NFL, I can provide value here. I can pop right in. And once I got my first couple no's, I was like, I'm thinking about this the wrong way. And this is not the right way to go about this. So I was like, all right, let's get out into the world. Let's go do something for free. Let's get in there. And it was that moment after that month and a half where I was like, I started to have more legit conversations, and people were starting to show general interest in me. I was like, God, I can't believe this is what it took. But it's 100% the truth, right? If you want it that bad, you can sit and apply on Hitmarker, and that'll take 4 to 5 months. And you'll sit there and you'll get a bunch of no's, and it'll be really frustrating, and you'll be bummed out. Or you can try and expedite the time, you can not be entitled, and you can go pound the pavement, and you can go do something for free. Mm-hmm. You can go, you can go be you can go work for Adam and try and, narrate his life and try and create a documentary series around him because he's that interesting of a guy. You should just go film Adam. Do it for
I won't even give him free glasses of water. Like it'll be a true volunteer experience, mate.
But no, I think volunteering is the ultimate way to be like, I'm here, I believe in what you're doing, and I'm willing to do it for free to prove to you that this is genuine.
Yeah. We'll wrap it up in a minute. I just want to say one thing. Right, I've seen. This is almost bullying, but it's not. As somebody I've got in mind, I'm not going to name them, which is the non-bullying part of it. But they're unemployed, which is fair enough. Loads of people get unemployed. It's unfortunate, especially now. It's going to happen more and more with the coronavirus affecting things. But instead of going to get another job, they feel as if they deserve to just stay in esports, right? So they set up a Patreon and people are just piling money into it because they're making people feel guilty about their situation, saying, oh, I can't afford rent this month. Just pay, like anything you can donate is great. And it's like, okay, that's cool, one-off if it's like an emergency and you've just been laid off and you're looking for new work. But if it's month after month after month, I start to get a bit... I'm just like, how do you not feel guilty just begging shit, just because you feel like you can only work in esports? There are other industries out there.
You said this happened like recently?
This is happening right now, and it's been happening for probably the last 6 to 9 months. One person. It's just like, fuck me. It's like the sense of entitlement here is insane. I could never do that. If I got let go of Esports Insider and I couldn't get into another publication straight away, I'd go get a job where I live, and then during my breaks, when I finish work for the day, I'll be messaging people. I'll be trying to make shit happen just so I can afford to pay my rent and bring food in. It's crazy.
I'd say people are going to be who they're going to be.
Unfortunately,
people are going to have different ways that they go about this world, and it was certainly hard enough to break in for me that I would be devastated if it all ended at some point. Because of how hard I've worked to get there. But I'd certainly go find some other job before I had to like call my dad.
That's it, right? Yeah. Before you're outside with a cardboard box and like an empty cup, just begging on the streets, you're just gonna go get a job in the shop. The local.
I'm talking about me. That's me personally, and that's how I'd roll. If it's working for somebody and it's paying the rent.
Fuck me. That's one thing I can't hack. I can't fathom it, and I never will, no matter how hard I try. So I've given up trying to understand it. I just look at it and feel enraged and just close Twitter. I close Twitter. I go read.
Time zone. Like I'm early morning right now. I've got my cup of coffee. Life is good. Mm-hmm. I haven't really checked Twitter today, so I'm not in any angry rage state. So.
Well, I'm not either, actually. So it's 2 p.m. here now, so we started recording at 1 p.m. my time. I've meditated for an hour. I've gone for an hour-long walk. I've read a book for an hour. I've had a cold shower. I'm fasting still. I haven't eaten in like 21 hours. Like, I'm in a really good place, and this is me calm and mellow.
Oh, Jesus. Look at you. You're the Zen master over here.
But the fact that this is my level of Zen... The fact that even when I'm at a point where I've been on Twitter twice today, and for probably 10 minutes each time, this is me like chilled, like in a good state. Imagine what I'm like if I haven't done any of those things. It's Monday, like 2 p.m. on a Monday. I've had to answer all these bullshit emails. I go on Twitter, I see this fucker begging, and then I go on LinkedIn, and I've got 17 people asking me absolute shit. I'm just done with it. It's why I almost left esports actually a few weeks ago.
What I'm really going to do now, which is great, since I know how level-headed you are, I'm going to, once people write me LinkedIn messages about the things that you hate, I'm just going to start tagging your name and be like, Adam is the guy to talk to. Send a really detailed note about what you're looking for, and let me know what your response is. Tell them I sent you.
if I get more than 3 of those, then yeah, I'm going to pull some strings at Outlaws, mate. You already fucking know you're God. Fuck, I would literally lose my mind. I'd delete LinkedIn instantly. I'd have to do it at some point. I mean, I use it to catch up with something. That's about it, and to put my shit out there, I guess. But
I had to be more strategic with my connections. There was a time where I accepted everybody, but now it's I have to be more strategic because it's just like the calls, the how do I break in calls, which I do try and pay back as much as possible. If I did them all, I I would never be off the phone.
Exactly. The only kind of calls I really take now are when like university students reach out and say, oh, I need help with my dissertation, or I'm doing this project and I need some answers from someone in the industry. At that point, if like the fact that they're already prioritizing esports and picking esports as a passion for them to work towards, I'm like, if I can do, I will speak to them. So that's probably once or twice a week at the moment.
In that sense, like you should always pick which ones you care about. Like pick the topics that you're willing to talk about. Like I told you, like if you went to the Ole Miss, I'm gonna answer you. Or if you if you're in college, there's a good chance that I'm gonna spend some time with you. Just because one thing outside of esports that drives me and is career growth. Mm-hmm. I do love helping young guys with their careers because I don't think colleges do the best job sometimes about just prepping you. And when a college kid reaches out to me and he's got like, I don't know, like nothing on his LinkedIn besides his college and his major, I'm like, okay, we need to have, I can't watch you go through this, what you're doing and not have a good LinkedIn setup. Because I do think it's important.
Yeah, one day I'll make mine good, but until then I'll just actually the better I make it, the more messages I'll probably get. So I should probably just remove my profile picture, spell my own name wrong, spell esports wrong in the title and everything, you know.
Good, I like yours.
It's okay. It does the job. Anyway, mate, we'll wrap it up. As you say, it's early for you. You've got a day ahead of you. I'm gonna go cry for an hour or something like that now. That's all I've got left to do today in my self-care routine.
I tell you what, it's what is it? Laugh, cry, and what did Jimmy V say? Laugh, cry. Fuck, I'm gonna forget it.
I don't have a clue, mate. I don't have a bloody clue. So, where can people find you if they want to follow you? I assume you're just gonna plug your LinkedIn here, but.
Herb May on LinkedIn. There's two of us, so follow the one that has the backwards hat. And then Herbie May on Twitter and herb.may.410 on Instagram. I should probably have them all be the same.
Change that, yeah.
Yeah.
That was awful.
Yeah.
I'm not putting dots in on Instagram ever. So can people expect more content from yourself, more podcasts and LinkedIn lives and such from you coming soon?
Certainly. I do need to kind of reconfigure my schedule. Different meetings have taken up my slots for my Tuesday mornings. And I want to be more strategic with how we're working with Beasley and how we're working with the Outlaws and use it as a tool for them. So I also am doing that. And then also I'm just hammering TikTok. I'm in. I'm on.
This isn't going out. I'm canceling it.
I saved it for this moment because I knew how angry it would make you, and I wanted your day to be ruined. So I am hard TikTok. So you should.
I could have guessed that though. I could have guessed you're the TikTok guy. You know.
Don't lie.
No, I 100% could. You know, you're on top of that stuff. Right, we're gonna end it here. We're almost at an hour. This could be the longest episode yet. Thank you for joining me, man. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a good day. Better than mine,
dude. I wish I was going to be seeing you in April, but I don't know anymore. But
I can't comment.
At one point, we will cross paths.
Well, it's going to happen. I mean, without confirming or denying a single thing, I imagine later in the year we will end up seeing each other at some point, and I'll put you in a headlock instantly for all this grief you put me through. Well, no, so, thank you for anyone who's watched and listened. If you feel free to follow or subscribe, depending on the platform you're on. If you don't do that, that's also fine. I don't really care too much. But more esports podcasts like this, where I speak to different people from different corners of the industry, try and keep it a bit fun. It could be really boring otherwise, and that's one thing I do not want. So if this has been boring, then we're going to blame Herb, but I think it's been a good one. Oh, sorry, Herbie. Shit.
Listen, you know what? As long as you don't say herb, like a lot of people say herb,
but
they don't pronounce the H. I'm like,
oh no, of course not. I'm English. I speak proper English. We're good. We're good, man. Right, thank you everyone for tuning in. Every Tuesday this series goes out, so keep up to date with it if you wish, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.